that.
Okay, now let's go to sound_commission. This is a good one. I'm a dermatologist practicing in Los Angeles.
Francesca's
Did you
getting,
say that Francesca's
Francesca's a
Okay,
dermatologist,
all right.
so Francesca's got
Okay, so
competition.
sound_commission. I'm a dermatologist practicing in LA. I practiced in New York, and Ernestine is right.
Thank
The
you.
Botox and plastics in New York are different and more subtle and not as aggressive as it is done out here in
That's
LA. In fact,
true.
in New York, we used to call the LA Hollywood style the quote unquote mad dog appearance because it's too aggressive out here in LA. Ernestine is correct. It's a real thing. It's not an illusion what Ernestine is saying.
Thank you. It's
Bingo.
so true.
Okay.
I just had this conversation with Francesca, my
Okay.
best friend Francesca, over the weekend.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. And my sister, Joyce, and I were talking about that the other day, how
Okay.
it's just so. Yesterday, I went to the nail place, right, to get a manicure. And this girl walks in, and I had to say to the girl who does my nails, she does my nails every week, and we're kind of friends. I said, look at her butt. I'd never seen a butt that big and a boob job that big. So she had the big boobs, and then her waist is smaller because in proportion, I mean, you look like you have a tiny waist. Even if you didn't have a tiny waist, but if you put big boobs in a big butt, then your waist gets really small. And she's wearing leggings, and she has no qualms about wearing leggings with her butt. It's like that. And I said to the girl, my whole life I exercised to try to get no butt. And now these girls want to have a butt. And the boobs were big. And she had the long extensions that her extensions were down to her waist. And of course they were fake. They weren't real. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, she thinks that's normal. And it's not normal.
Well, she thinks it's hot because her guy or guys
Well, her
think
guy
that's
was there,
hot.
and he was much
Oh,
older
really?
than her.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he was much older than her.
How old would you say he was and she
was probably in her 40s, early
Really?
40s, and he was probably in his mid to late 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the whole thing was just ridiculous. But that's the norm here. That is the norm. I'm not the norm. I don't have that. And that's what is the craziness about it. That the abnormal becomes the normal living around Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And I think Miami.
What do they call Hollywood? They call it Tinseltown because it's not real. Everything is on celluloid. It's
but
all
people
about
here, you don't spend as much time as I do in Beverly Hills because I go there to meet my sister for lunch, or I go there for my doctors or my nail or my hair or whatever I go for. It's just a world that is just, like my sister called me the other day. She said she was out at lunch and she said, oh, you know those two twins that we always see? So there's two sisters. They walk on, Bedford is the street that all the plastic surgery is on. They must work at a doctor there, but they're like twins. So they're both tall, blonde, with fake extensions, and they wear mini skirts up to their butt and above, with like 5-inch platforms, with a boob job, with a big, they both wear the same outfits. And my sister said she was out at lunch and she was returning, she was going back to her building, and she said, oh God, I just passed those twins. The guys are falling in the street over them. I said to my sister, who can't find a normal guy out here, the guys that look at those girls are not the normal guys. Those guys are looking for, they're low-life guys, because anybody that thinks that's a hot look, beyond just, it's a showstopper because you walk out and you see some girl with giant boobs and a butt and legs and hair, and of course you're going to turn around and look, but it's not real life. That's not, you don't wake up looking like that in the morning.
but some of that is hot, but what happens is it goes over the edge into funhouse mirror, you know, where you're looking at it, it's ludicrous. It's so exaggerated because they've lost all concept.
Right, but that's
they've taken something that could be pretty hot looking and taken it over the cliff.
Stay. I hate to disillusion you or guys that think that's hot. When you wake up in the morning, unless you've had all that plastic surgery and all that, but then it slowly starts to fall. You have to keep getting more plastic surgery on top of more plastic surgery to keep it going. So when you wake up in the morning, most women who care about their skin don't sleep with makeup on because makeup clogs pores. So you're not going to go to sleep with a full face of makeup, 3 sets of lashes. You don't wake up looking like that. So you have to be real if you are with a guy at some point, or a girl, whoever kind of sex you like. you're not going to look like that way. So that's the
Okay.
falseness of it all. You could
Okay.
look like that for a half an hour to an hour to a couple of hours a day, but then you go home, you have to take off the 5-inch heels and you have to take off the makeup and eventually the extensions. I've had extensions. You wake up and there's one on your pillow and you realize, oh God, that's not my real hair. Because when I had extensions, I thought, oh, everybody would say to me, your hair looks so great. And I thought, oh, wow, my hair looks really good. You believe it's your hair until...
You had extensions for about 15 minutes when I got...
No, I had extensions for like 2 years, and I was really good with them. Yeah, when I was under a lot of...
I thought you just... No. When we went to the Emmys...
No, those were clip-on extensions. Oh. I had real extensions that they weave in your hair. I went for about 2 years. I used to go to Warren Trachomey, and they would put it in, and first of all, it was like $5,000. You were the one, you said, hey, if you want to get extensions, I'll pay for them. I said, yeah, sure,
I
okay.
think you went for 2 years.
I went for 2 years, yes. When my mother was sick and my hair was getting thin, I went to my hair guy and he said, well, you want to do extensions? I said, yeah. They would get the hair from virgin nuns in Italy, which was the best hair.
Virgin nuns?
Yeah, because they don't dye their hair.
Oh,
and their hair is the best quality. So if you want really good hair, you buy them by the bundles, and it's like $500 a bundle, and you need at least 10 bundles in your hair to make it look real. So I'd have all this hair.
Wait, that much money?
Of course. Yeah, that's how much it was.
Like
yeah. 5,000. No, it was like $5,000. Anyway, but I was really good because some women, they don't take care of their extensions, but I was really good. I never, you can't really wash your hair because you have them, you can just rinse your hair and you put soap in it, but you can't really get your hands in there. I went for months without them falling off. And then one day you wake up and it's on your pillow and then you realize, wait, this is not my hair.
No.
And so all that fakeness is just fake. And then finally, when I got to the point after a couple of years, I didn't want them anymore. I went back to the girl at the salon. I said, cut them out, take them out. And she kept telling me, oh, it's not going to ruin your hair. Yeah, when they take them out of your hair, because they're heat sealing onto your hair, take them out. My hair was thinner than I'd ever seen before. My hair was so thin, I looked in the mirror. It was horrible. I said to her, cut my hair. She cut my hair in a pixie cut, and I had a baseball cap with me. I'll never forget. I put the baseball cap on. I walked out. The cap was too big on my hair because I had no hair left. And I would never do real extensions again. I would do a clip-on extension. Those you just clip in and clip out. But these girls, I see them. Their hair, you could see where the line is, and you can't run your hand through your hair. And God forbid a guy puts his hand through your hair. It gets caught because you have all of that. That's all the fakeness, the fake world. So I got tired of all that. And that's why I never do extensions like that. And that's why the Bedford Street, it's all an illusion.
It is. That was a great speech you just
Thank
gave.
I don't know, it's the
and
truth.
You look pretty today, very pretty.
Thank you. Oh, once in a while.
Your hair looks really good.
Well,
and
my
it's real.
hair, finally, it's trying to get healthy again after that girl flat ironed my hair and she burned my hair on Bedford Street. That street is the kiss of death in Beverly Hills.
It is. So again, it's all about making movies here and making images. It's not real.
Yeah, but it's not real. When you go to the movies and the lights go down, that's the whole, wonderful thing.
You can do 49 takes to get a scene right.
Yeah.
And so when you see it up on the silver screen, you think, oh,
effortless.
He or she is great. That was effortless.
But you actually,
and it took 49 tries to get
it. When I was living in New York and Sex and the City was out, and I worked in the largest PR agency in the world, and these women, they wanted to dress like Carrie. Sarah Jessica Parker is not Carrie. And they would walk around with these high heels.
A lot of people think you look like
Well, yeah,
Sarah
I got
Jessica
mistaken
Parker.
for her a lot because my hair is wavy when I don't blow it out. And they would walk in the street with these high heels and the flowers on their lapel, thinking they're Carrie. And I read an interview with Sarah Jessica Parker that said, she goes, I'm not Carrie, I'm Sarah. People confuse that that's really me. That's not me, but people start to believe these actors really are those parts they play.
Okay.
And that's
so
the fantasy.
Clearly, LA much faker than New York. New York much realer but harsher to me than LA. It's just like hard real.
I think a lot of people that live here could never live in New York.
No.
It's too tough of a town.
It's tough.
So anyway, that's my
can wear
plastic
on
surgery story.
Okay. And speaking of that, let's do one more on this subject. This is just AGG. My wife did Botox and fillers until one visit of fillers deformed one of her cheeks.
That
Been
happens,
there,
but
done
they can
that.
undo the filler.
I always told her to stay natural like myself.
Aw.
I love her so much just the way we are as we grow older.
That's so sweet.
On a side note, I was shocked to see young college-aged men at the clinic getting the filler. WTF, says Just AG.
Talk to my friend, my best friend, Francesca, and she will tell you, these girls come in, they want Botox, they want filler. They come in with their mothers because their mothers are more obsessed with making their daughters look perfect.
Okay.
They come at 15 years old. You're going to start putting filler? And
Okay,
now...
we're going to comment on Friends and Neighbors, the John Hamm series that just ended with its final episode.
Right.
Well, it's all about that, right? It's that
Yeah.
town. It's called Westmont. Is it?
Yeah, it's Westchester.
Yeah,
it's up.
Is that fictional, Westmont?
I think it's fictional. I don't think it's like about a half an hour from New York City.
Yeah. Okay, but those are the
Those
types
are the moms
who visit.
that take their kids.
Yeah, they
well,
do.
Here in Beverly Hills too. So.
Okay, so I have done some Botox fairly regularly.
Yeah, but you don't do a lot of Botox.
I don't do a lot. I just do a little bit around my crow's
by your
feet.
eyes. That's it.
But I tried fillers for a while, and when we first got out to LA,
you're very thin.
I'm gaunt because I run too much, do too much
you don't
cardio.
have a lot of skin on your face.
But the point is, we started going to a woman here who was a friend of Francesca's, and she wasn't.
Oh, well, wait a second.
Really...
This is the funniest. When you go to this dermatologist's office, and she's very well known, she does a lot of stars. And on the sheet, when you fill it out, I had to laugh because I told Francesca, my best friend, what the sheet said. It said, how do you want to look? You know, what's your look that you're going for? And there's a box that you can check off. It says frozen. So for all those like when you look at the anchors, the news anchors,
frozen.
They're frozen. There's not a line on their face. So
some movie starlets are frozen.
They check off the frozen box.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't want to be frozen.
I didn't want to be frozen, but I wanted a little fuller cheeks.
Well, because your cheeks get very gaunt. You have high cheekbones.
Okay. So I was trying the filler. Not pleasant to get it put in because it is.
Plus, also sometimes
relentlessly
it lumps up.
painful, and mine. We were just out here for a few months, and all of a sudden, I lumped up in my cheek, and it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, it gets puffy and lumpy,
so
and then you got to go back, and they have to
I had to go back, and they had to use some. It's actual poison. It's like a.
It's a saline solution. They dissolve
but it's
it.
What's the name?
They don't use poison in your face.
No, well, it's something acid. It's acidic.
Yeah.
Okay, but they have to go in and dissolve.
Yeah, they have to do it again. They have to undo it, so it has to dissolve.
Yeah.
Well, you could dissolve it. Depends on the stuff.
Then I had to take a round of anti-inflammatories. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And that was the end of my.
Yeah.
I don't do any more fillers. They're
no more for you.
They're dangerous, and then the more we looked into it and talked to other dermatologists about it, it's dangerous because if they make one false move.
Well, you got to go to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you can do huge damage.
These Botox parties that show up all over the place, or these little clinics that pop up, and you can go in there and they're less money than if you went to a dermatologist. I wouldn't let anybody. This is your face. It's terrible.